Welcome back. In this section, we are going to look at some interesting questions from input-output statements in C. Let's get on with that. We'll directly get to online GDB and discuss the answers. Let's look at the first question. Here we have hash include stdio.h in main. We have a printf %d printf hello world. So what does a printf return, right? So this printf, what does it return? So it's returning something which is what is getting printed in this printf. So you can pause the video and probably check your answers, and then I'm going to explain. Right? You can pause it here and probably try your answer. Okay. So we'll start the answers now. So what happens is this printf will print the hello world and return the number of characters printed on the screen. So if you look at, we have HELLO, which is 5, then space is 1, which is 6, and then 5. So hello world followed by 11 will be the answer. So if you see here, hello world followed by 11, that's the answer. So printf returns the number of characters printed on the screen. Now let's get to the second question. Same thing if I do for scanf, right? So scanf and I do a %d, and I have comma ampersand a comma ampersand b, right? So I have two this ones. I'll have int a and b. Now if I run this program, right, it's going to wait for input. If I give 33 and or 333 and 44, what do you think will be the output? Again, you can pause the video and then try out your answers. Okay. The answer is going to be scanf returns the number of arguments returned. It doesn't matter whether it is 333, 44 or 40,000, whatever be the input, doesn't matter. It's going to return 2 as the answer because it has read 2 inputs from the user. That's what scanf does. Now let's talk about the third one, which is on, we'll get to sprintf. So let's declare a buff here. What I'm going to do is char buff of 100, right? And I'm going to do sprintf buff %d a and b, and I'm going to initialize a is equal to 10, b is equal to 20, right? And after that is done, if I puts buff, what will happen? So I'm going to say I is equal to this, or a is equal to this, b is equal to this. So this is sprintf. So what does sprintf do? Sprintf is a function where whatever is going to be displayed on the monitor will get instead printed into the string. So if you do sprintf a equal to %d, b equal to %d, a equal to 10, b equal to 20 will get stored into this buff. So if you print this buff, literally it will print a equal to 10, b equal to 20, right? So if you see, that's the content of buff. So it is string printing. Instead of screen printing, you're going to print it on the string. Only one thing to notice, if at all, right, the number of characters, if the output is greater than the number of characters in the array, it's going to overwrite something in the memory. So you need to be very careful when you use sprintf, because if at all you give 10 here or 5 here, right, then if you look at it, the number of characters in actual is exceeding. So sprintf will just overwrite some random memory, which is very dangerous, right? So if you look at it, stack smashing detected. That means you have written outside of your memory limits. So remember that whenever you are using sprintf. Similarly, you can read from a string as well. So you can have a string that where you have initialized it to some value, say 10, 20, and then you can do a character array buff is equal to 10, 20, and then instead of sprintf you can do a scanf. That means I want to read from a string 2 values. So, and the 2 values I'm going to do %d space %d, and I'm going to print the values I've read. %d, a comma. Oh, I just moved it to from C syntax to Java syntax, and now if I run it, it should work fine. Yeah, 10 and 20. So character buff of this one I've initialized to 10 and 20, scanf will read from this buffer and store it into the variable, and then you can display that. That's what is scanf. Next, let's look at some special characters that we can do. So Indian is a word that is there. So I'm going to have some special characters now. So let's do this printf, and let's actually do a %s followed by \b and then %s, right? And I'm going to print buff comma buff. So what will this do? You can pause and first think about your answer, and then I'll run this. So here what happens is, if you look at it, Indian is getting printed. What will get printed is this India will get printed. \b is actually backspace, so the cursor moves here. So India would be printed on the screen, right? And the backspace would take it here, and then Indian gets printed. So that's why you see India and Indian. So if at all you have \r, \r is carriage written on the same line. So Indian would be there. Again it will go back, the cursor will go back here, again it will print Indian. So it will be just Indian on the screen, not two Indians. It will just be one Indian. Basically \r is go back on the same line. We have used \n multiple times, which is actually carriage return to the next line. \r will take it back to the same line, and it will be waiting at the start. That's why you see only one Indian and not two Indian here. These are some special characters. Usually these are asked in aptitude tests in C. Right, and one last thing we'll see before we head out of this area. So in the last one we'll do %.s. I want you to guess what will be the answer for this, right? And I'll give a 3 here. So I'll allow you to read the question first. Char buff, so we have a string called Indian, and in that %.s, comma 3, comma buff. What it does is it takes only 3 characters and it prints that in the output. So if you give 4, or if you have a value n, right? So I'll have a value n is equal to 5 or 4, right? And I'll give n here. What C does is it will take n characters. So n is 4, INDI will be printed on the screen. If you see here, and if I make n is equal to 3, if I run this, you will see IND, right? So this is a very interesting one. Again, this is very popularly asked in C, right? In the aptitude test, you will see this question that is there. So let's take one last easy question before we close it. So I'll take a very simple one. Int I equal to say 65 and printf %ci. Not doing a char of I or anything like that. %c. So it's an integer. I'm using a %c. The answer would be capital A. Right? So again, you can change it to character. No difference in the answer. It will still be capital A. Capital A is the ASCII value for 65. I think all of you know that. So that's why whether it's integer or character, it doesn't matter. Again, you can have character A and do a %D. It's character A, so it will treat it as a number. So %D looks at it as a number now and then prints it. So it will print 65 now as the answer now. Fine. So these are some questions again which are usually asked in the interviews. So hopefully we have covered the most important questions from a input output standpoint. We'll move to the next section.